Hello, everybody. Welcome again to Elevating Your Life. We are going to elevate today. I am just so excited. I've been counting the days for this interview because I'm fascinated with this work. We have with us today Steve Burgess. He is one of the world's leading hypnotherapists and past life regression specialists. He has completed thousands of past life regression sessions, helping his clients with a wide range of issues, including phobias and anxieties, depressions, lack of confidence, weight issues, addictions, physical illness, all sorts of things. So he's going to share a lot of great information. And this is just such a fascinating topic, Steve. First off, I want to say welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Paula. It's an honor to be with you. It really is. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Honored to have you. Well, I would love to begin with having you share your background and what got you into this amazing work that you do and has kept you in it.
Yeah, it was a little bit strange. I've been a hypnotherapist now for 29 years. And prior to that, I was a publishing director of a publishing company, which went bankrupt, and I had to do something quickly. And my father said, well, why don't you look at being a hypnotherapist? Because he'd stopped smoking using hypnotherapy. And what had happened is my father's a scientist, a very left brain man. And he tried everything to stop smoking and nothing had worked. And one day he went to see a hypnotherapist. The hypnotherapist laid him in a chair, relaxed him, talked to him quietly about giving up smoking, letting go of cigarettes. And my dad didn't want cigarettes anymore. And he couldn't make sense of this. It didn't make sense. His scientific brain was saying, it doesn't compute. So what he started to do is to read up about hypnotherapy. And the more he read, the more fascinated he became, to such a degree that he then went and trained as a hypnotherapist. And he started to see clients privately at home, just as a hobby, really. So when he said, well, why don't you have a go at hypnotherapy? Okay, well, we'll see what happens. And it was just one of those sort of things that was right for me. It was like the universe was sort of pushing me in this direction of something that I'm natural at. I always say there are natural doctors, there are natural healers, there are natural plumbers, there are natural therapists. I'm just lucky that I'm a natural therapist. It's what I should have been doing all my life. And I've sort of devoted 29 years now to helping put people back together after they've been struggling to be free and live lives freely.
Oh, I love it. Yes. And it's so true that we can discover really, I am natural at this. This is something I'm meant to do. And that's so exciting when we discover that.
Yes.
Really is. So for the audience out there, Steve, that says, I know nothing about hypnotherapy. Tell us, break that down for us. Exactly what does that entail?
Okay. Most people think that hypnosis, is something paranormal or supernatural. It isn't. Hypnosis is totally natural. And what this means is we all go into hypnosis every day, at least 24 times a day. So trance, that's our word. A trance is a natural state. So hypnosis, whenever we daydream, that's a form of trance. Anybody who drives, who goes on automatic pilot in the car and suddenly realizes, how did I get here? They've been in trance, they've been in hypnosis. When we drift into sleep, when we drift out of sleep, that's trance. So trance is a natural process. And what happens when we start to use trance in a therapeutic setting is we tend to emphasize the relaxational elements. So I tend to say to my clients, think relaxation, not coma, not being under anesthetic, not being under my control, nothing like that. It's not being asleep. It's just a focused inner state of relaxation. And what that does, that gentle inner state, it allows the subconscious mind, the deeper mind, to come through quite naturally. And the mind is very much like an iceberg, Paula. The tip of the iceberg is the conscious thinking mind. So that's about less than 1%, maybe 0.1%. The bulk of the iceberg beneath the waves is the subconscious, the 99.9% of the mind. So this is one reason why hypnotherapy is so powerful, because we're using the engine room of the mind. And the subconscious is the seat of our emotions, the seat of our imagination, of our creativity, the seat of our intuition. It contains memories all the way back. And so when we're working in hypnotherapy, we're working with the powerhouse of the mind. And this is one reason why hypnotherapy is a radical therapy. You know, we don't usually see people for years as part of our therapy. Some people can get better very quickly. Some people do need quite a lot of sessions. But it works so effectively for most people because trance is natural.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. And I love your analogy, the engine room of the mind, because really so much is happening in that huge part of our mind, our brain, isn't it?
Yes.
Oh
Yes.
my gosh. Oh my gosh.
And of course, one of the wonderful things, most of my work is regression based. And basically, regression simply means to go back into the past in our thoughts. So again, regression is natural. If I ask you to tell me what you ate for dinner last night, when you think about it, you've just regressed. If I say, what did you do 10 years ago on your birthday, you'll think about it. That's regression, is going back. In a therapeutic context, however, regression is more about going back into the past to uncover and release the emotional causes of our issues. So the regression therapy model is that all of our issues, notice I say all, not most, but all of our issues come from locked in feelings and emotions from past traumas. And what happens is when we're traumatized, we lock the emotional pain, the energy of that pain into ourselves, into the subconscious. And then we are constantly reacting to that emotional pain without realizing. Regression means to go back, open up the emotional causes, the memories, the traumas, and release the anger or the sadness or the fear or the anxiety or the guilt. And then the problem that is causing just dissolves away. So if I can give you an example, I had a lady came to me with a phobia of dogs. She was terrified of dogs, and she was so scared she could hardly leave her house in case she saw a dog. If she went out shopping, she had 4 people with her to stand around her to protect her in case she saw a dog. And she came to me for therapy because she was about to go on holiday over to the States to visit her daughter. And she said, last year we were there and they had to put the dog, my daughter's got a dog, they had to put it in the kennels for a few weeks. And that isn't fair on the dog or my daughter's family. One of the first questions we ask in therapy is, how long have you had the problem for? And she said, I've had it all my life. As long as I can remember, even as a child, I was terrified of dogs. So do you remember anything that caused it? Not a thing, she said. Well, I guided her into trance, gently took her into hypnosis. I asked the subconscious to take her to the cause of that problem. And all of a sudden, she started to move in the chair. She had her eyes closed. She was nicely relaxed. And suddenly she started to say, I'm about 2 years old. And mommy is taking me for a walk to the park. And she's put me in a buggy, a little pushchair. And she strapped me in. And we're going to the park. It's a nice sunny day. And she had a big smile on her face while she was reliving this memory. Mommy took her to the park, and she says she's taking me to the duck pond, and I'm looking at the ducks. And mommy's gone off to have a chat with a friend. And she just left me looking at the ducks. And all of a sudden, Paula, she started to do this in the chair and pull her head away. She was seeing something. I said, what are you seeing? She said, it's a dog. there's a dog, and it's sniffing me, and she hit it like this. So she whacked the dog with her hand, and suddenly she started to cry and scream and sob and cry and scream. It's bit me, it's bit me. She said, the dog's bit me. Oh, and she was screaming and crying. And of course, she couldn't get out. She was trapped strapped in. So she relived that memory, released the sadness and the fear of dogs just dissolved away. She turned up about 2 months later at my office door, knocking on the door, and she said, I brought this to show you. And there was a photograph of her from the holiday in the States, sitting in the back of a car with her arm around this dirty, great big dog.
Oh, I love that.
So that's regression, to go back into something. But most of my work, and the work that obviously I've written about in my books, is about past life regression, is going back into previous lives to release the traumas from past lives that are causing problems in this present lifetime, which I admit is controversial, but is incredibly effective and very powerful as well. So, it appears we haven't just lived in this life. We've been around many times before this lifetime.
Yes. So in a way, it seems like these experiences we have that traumatize us, they are pretty much sitting on a shelf and affecting us from then on. And
yes.
You're able to bring us back to that. And then is it like we get acceptance for it and then we release it? We acknowledge it happened. How is it that fear can go away?
There are two main ways. That's a great question. The main way is releasing the emotion or the energy of it. So this isn't usually fun therapy. We see a lot of tears. Sometimes clients are screaming occasionally, not very often, but sometimes they're shaking as they're releasing anxiety and fear. That's the main way. But the second way is what you've said there. Some people get an understanding about what has happened in the past, and that makes sense of the problem now. So they may say, no wonder my mother's always hated me and we've always had problems in our relationship. I killed her in a past life. No wonder she doesn't like me anymore in this lifetime, because she's brought that energy from the past life into this life. So those are the two main ways. But a lot of it is emotional release. And a lot of past life therapy is death trauma, is releasing deaths in past lives. Because if we die in a traumatic way, we often bring that trauma through. And it can affect us. So we're triggering these energies all the time. I mean, the standard triggering is a phobia. So if somebody has, say, a flying phobia, and that's something most hypnotherapists treat regularly, very successfully, but it's often caused by deaths in past lives where they've been, I had a client, let's say, with a flying phobia, and she relived being a soldier in Vietnam, a male soldier, a male American soldier in Vietnam. And the plane that she was traveling in was pretty rickety on a mission. It got shot down. It crash landed into the jungle, and that was terrifying enough. She then managed to escape from the plane, and then they managed to get the way back through to base. So that wasn't a death, but it was very close to death. And all the time she was terrified, or that soldier was terrified, that he was going to be killed at any second. So she relived that past life, and the fear of flying just dissolved away. But of course, we're being triggered in other ways. So depression is classic. Depression is not caused by a chemical imbalance in the brain. That's the medical lie. It's basically caused by locked-in emotions from the past in most cases. I had one lady who had a severe depression, and her depression was caused, I think, by 8 past lives. And they were not very pleasant past lives. So in one of them, She was a Victorian flower seller in London, very poor, living on the edge of poverty all the time, desperately trying to sell flowers. And she got very sick and more sick and ill. And one day she dragged herself to a quack doctor who then took her inside, raped her and murdered her. So that's pretty traumatic. In another past life, she was a young woman who had a young child, and the young boy died, and she never came to terms with that death. In another past life, she was hung as a witch. And I've had hundreds of people over the years who have come in past life therapy who have been killed as witches wrongly, hundreds of them. And of course, and she wasn't a witch. And in another past life, she was a cowardly soldier who ran away from a battle and couldn't come to terms with his cowardice. So when we released all these past lives over several sessions, the depression just dissolved away and she got better.
Yes. So would you say that even if you really, okay, at this point right now, in my life right now, I don't really pinpoint something I want to go in and release, but I think it would be good to go in and look because they're, past lives. Can someone come to you for a session and just say, I want to do a past life regression just to kind of clean house? Because
yes,
we do bring that stuff with us. So do you recommend that, Steve?
Definitely. And it's like peeling layers back. There are layer after layer after layer. And we get used to sort of being as we are. We don't realize there are other layers underneath. And, for me, it's about peeling those layers. And once you've peeled all those layers back, you really are free because, good therapy sets you free. You know that from your experience in life. Good therapy sets you free. Most of us are stuck. We're held back. We're prisoners of this inner pain. Now, if we can let go of that. So, some clients will just come. I had a client in the other evening, a lady in Canada, and she just wanted to do some past life work. And she went back into a past life in Africa as an African woman who had lost a child, and there was a lot of fear and a lot of upset around that. So that's nothing too specific, but it will let go of a layer of her inner emotional baggage, and it will lighten her load. So she becomes less reactive. So we're always reacting to this inner stuff. If we can let go of it, we become less reactive and we heal and we're free.
I love that. And then that even, as we go into our next lifetime, we're not carrying that with us.
Absolutely the case. Very much the case.
So awesome. And so I'm going to do a session with you, Steve. I am. I am on board. I am really excited because this is fascinating, and really it's beautiful that this can even be done. Will you take a moment to share with everyone your website information, how they can get a hold of you, and where they can look at books, whatever you'd like to share?
Oh, that's kind. Okay, thank you. Well, my new book is called The Power of Past Life Regression. And this is a book about past life cases. So dozens of my client cases, what they came with, the past life experiences, the stories, the words that they said, everything that happened in the past life sessions. So that's The Power of Past Life Regression, published by 6 books. We can get it from all good booksellers. It's also an audio book. I recorded it last year as well. So that's available on Audible and all the usual audiobook places. My website is lionheart-training.com. That's as in Richard the Lionheart, lionheart-training.com. And I also have a WordPress site with lots of blogs on it and podcasts. That's a strange title. It's hypnoblogpod.wordpress.com, hypnoblogpod.wordpress.com. But what I do like to emphasize more than anything else and give away to the world is my free YouTube channel. which consists of free hypnotherapy recordings that anybody can listen to free of charge, no strings attached. And that YouTube channel is Hypno for All, which is HYPNO, the number 4 ALL. And there are free recordings on there for anxiety, for irritable bowel, for physical problems, for losing weight, for stress, etc., etc., etc. So that's my way of giving back to the world. And so if anybody wants to if they're not interested in buying a book, that's okay. Have some free hypnotherapy. It's on me.
Yeah.
And my Facebook page is The Power of Past Life Regression, the title of the book.
Yes. Okay. And I have to ask this question. Have you yourself gone into some past life regression?
Oh, yeah. I'm an advocate for therapy. As therapists, I believe we should have therapy. So, for example, a major trauma in my life at the start of last year, which really knocked the stuffing out of me. So I've been having regular regression therapy and other therapists to help me to come to terms with it. And yes, I'm not very visual, though. You see, my problem is I don't see the past lives. I feel them and intuit them. Most of my clients in the book, they're describing what they're seeing. I'm on a battlefield. There's a man with an axe. He's coming towards me. He kills me. Whereas I just get feelings. Yeah. But in one of my past lives just recently, I was a young woman in the 1700s who was pregnant, and my husband was about to go away to war, and he was called up and go to war in the 1700s, and he never came back. So there's that loss of my husband. And of course, my trauma last year was about loss. So, that connected. In another past life, again, and in fact, in that same past life, I then gave birth to the child, but the baby died. So again, that was a second piece of loss. I did do a horrible past life death many, many years ago, which was awful. It's one of the worst things I've ever experienced. And I did it on myself, as opposed to with a therapist, where I was killed. I was betrayed. And a lot of my clients have betrayal issues. I was betrayed. I died horribly. They put me to death using what's called hung, drawn, and quartered, which is a really horrific way to be killed in the 1600s, 1500s in England. I won't tell people what it consisted of because it's very, very, very unpleasant. But I went back through that death about 6 times to try to clear it, to release it. Sometimes you have to go back more than once. And that wasn't fun. So I often say to my clients, I know what you're going through. I'm doing this myself. I've been there myself. I'm not putting you through something that I haven't done myself, but it's liberating. And I am so much more healed in myself than I was a year ago because of the regression therapy sessions that I'm having.
I'm a big vibration girl, Reiki vibration. I'm into, and I'm feeling that, when we can let these things go, we would raise to a higher vibration.
Yes. And what happens is we're less reactive. We become more balanced. And when people become more balanced, the collective on Earth becomes more balanced. So my work, without trying to be too pretentious, is about helping to heal the Earth. Because the more people are more balanced and free, that energy is out there, the world is a more balanced place. Yeah. So anything that I can do just to make it a bit more balanced is my path, really.
Yeah. Oh, this is so fantastic. I love it. Well, with about 4 minutes left in the show, what last words do you want to leave with everyone, Steve? What do you want them to think about when we say goodbye today?
I believe that we all have issues. And John Bradshaw, the father of inner child therapy, he says that 96% of people have baggage. I actually believe it's 100%. I've never met any of the 4%ers. I believe we all need to do work on ourselves, and it takes courage to do this work. But if we're able to work in therapy on our issues and become more balanced, our lives change, the lives of people around us change, and we become freer. And I just don't understand why don't we want to be free in life? Because the more free we are, the more everything flows more easily, the more we're able to be in the moment and to be in the now, because there's less of a frantic energy inside us. And we become more open to love. And if we're more open to love, then, well, that's the most important thing that we're here for, surely. So I keep saying therapy sets you free. And anything I can do to help people to get that freedom is my path nowadays.
Yes. And I can just imagine how many lives you have affected and changed over the years, Steve. I mean, that just touches the heart. And I do want to tell you thank you for that. A big heartfelt thank you, because you are helping people and touching lives.
Well, that's my job, ma'am.
Yeah. And I'm so thrilled to assist you in getting the word out there about this and this fascinating therapy. And I'm excited for my session with you.
Great. Well, that's the thing as well, of course, now, because I do 99% of sessions online and they work so well. I resisted doing online sessions for years and people would have to travel a long way to see me, but I embraced it last year. And I love doing the sessions online. They work, if not better than in-house sessions, because I think people are more relaxed because they're at home. And, they haven't had to travel anywhere. They haven't had to try and find a parking space. They haven't had to, rush. They can just be at home. They're more relaxed. And it works so well online. It honestly does. I have clients around the world now. Just recently, I had a client in Singapore, in Vietnam, a new client this week in Israel. So, it's just wonderful. And it's just great to meet people from around the world as well. I think it's just such an important process.
And it's so fascinating how we can sit here together, even though you're on the other side of the world from me. I mean, really, it's a blessing and something to embrace. Well, it's time to say goodbye, but I would love you to share your website one more time with the audience for those who are listening via radio.
Okay, it's lionheart-training.com. So my therapy organization, training organization is Lionheart Training. So Lionheart-training. I called it Lionheart because I believe as therapists, we have to be lion-hearted. We have to take on lots and lots of stuff and keep coming back for more. So it just seems to fit the therapy world.
I love it. I love it. And if you want to see the podcast, you can go to patreon.com/Paula Vail. Everyone, thank you for joining us today. Love, hugs, and blessings. Steve, love, hugs, and blessings. Thank you.
And back to you as well, Paula. Thank you for having me. It's been a privilege. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Goodbye, everyone.